This is a super interesting story that we've actually been covering for several months. There's this guy named Neil Cavuto. He's a host on Fox News, Fox Business. And Neil Cavuto had cancer, has multiple sclerosis, and recently got COVID for the second time. And he ended up in the ICU. And the interesting thing about Neil Cavuto is when he came back from his first bout with COVID, which was much less serious, he kind of admonished people in his audience for sending him messages about how they want him to die. And he kind of confronted his own audience and said, go and get the vaccine. He now has again come back and called out his own audience after he ended up very seriously ill with COVID. And he says, I was told, had I not been vaccinated, I wouldn't even be here. I'm just telling it to you the way it is. And the fact that this guy constantly has to call out his own audience for their false beliefs is really something, but good for him for doing it. Check out what he had to say yesterday.
So I wasn't really hiding anything. I just felt that I wasn't the story. The stories on this show were and are the story. It's about you. It's not about me. Just like this show. My opinions don't matter. You matter. The news matters. But this did drag on a long time for me. So you really do deserve an explanation from me. And here goes. I did get COVID again, but a far, far more serious strand, what doctors call COVID pneumonia. It landed me in intensive care for quite a while, and it really was touch and go. Some of you who wanted to put me out of my misery darn near got what you wished for. So sorry to disappoint you, but no, the vaccine didn't cause that. That grassy knoll theory has come up a lot. My very compromised immune system did. Because I've had cancer and right now I have multiple sclerosis, I'm among the vulnerable 3%ers or so of the population that cannot sustain the full benefits of a vaccine. In other words, it simply doesn't last. But let me be clear. Doctors say had I not been vaccinated at all, I wouldn't be here. It provided some defense, but that is still better than no defense. Maybe not great comfort for some of you, and frankly, not great comfort for me either. This was scary. How scary? I'm talking ponderosa suddenly out of the prime rib in the middle of the buffet line scary. That's how scary. No matter, I'm not here to debate vaccinations for you, just offer an explanation for me. I owed you that. I didn't want to become the story, but for many of you, I did. So now you know the story. Time to get back to far more important matters.
The degree, I mean, listen, if your audience is so unhinged and weaponized that this regularly you have to explain to them simple realities about vaccination and COVID, maybe this isn't the right audience for you. And of course, I'm not like a big defender of Neil Cavuto. For the most part, I find his political views just kind of mildly disgusting in the sense of like, yeah, he's just kind of like a center right, primarily economic right winger, and I don't agree with him on much. But his audience seems absolutely horrible. And of course, we know that they are. Just think back a few months ago when he had COVID the first time. Maybe this was more like, I guess this was about 6 months ago. He shared some of the emails he got from people wishing him dead.
We've got TJ, who also emails. It's clear you've lost some weight with all this stuff. Good for you. But I'm not happy with less of you. I want none of you. I want you gone, dead, kaput, finite, get it? Now take your two-bit advice, deep six it, and you. That's rather harsh, Neil.
Whoa.
So, but wow. I figured I'd relay that to you.
Out for the Sopranos prequel? Jeez.
Yeah, it does sound kind of like that. Okay, now we got Vince. Vince tweets, hey guys, I bought a new car after being told it was the best. Then it blew up after I left the car lot. So now I'm begging everyone to please buy the same car. Sorry, I was just pretending to be Neil Cavuto, which I think is being a little sarcastic there in that last tweet.
You think?
A little bit. Okay.
A little bit.
I know you love that. Here's another tweet. PolitiFact bias. Neil Cavuto has been fully vaccinated for months and has been a vocal advocate about the safety and efficacy of COVID vaccines publicly and repeatedly on air. This is not a new position for him. Which is true, Neil. This is not a new position for
you. And that's kind of what we were stressing, in all seriousness. So look, this is something from the very beginning I've been saying, that I think the better part of valor is if you haven't been vaccinated, it might be a good idea for you to get vaccinated. I understand those for religious, personal reasons don't want it, but I understand also the numbers that the more who do get vaccinated, the bigger the drop in cases.
Absolutely,
but
yeah.
Didn't fall on all receptive ears, I guess.
No, clearly not. I got another one for you. Ignis, aspiring to aspire, tweets, Cavuto is the Tigger of talking heads.
Anyway, I think you guys get it. And this has been something he's been dealing with for a while. And this was his, and again, we covered this at the time. He's been doing this for months and his audience just doesn't seem to get it. Here he is begging people, think about someone other than yourself when it comes to the vaccine.
We've lost 5 million globally to this. We've lost nearly 800,000 in the U.S. Take the political speaking points and toss them. For now, I'm begging you, toss them and think of what's good, not only for yourself, but for those around you. If you don't want to do it for yourself, if you think it's a pain in the ass, I get that. Right. But think of others around you. I dare say people who experience this or have seen loved ones who've been affected by this or heaven forbid die from this are not judging the wisdom of mandates. They're wishing they got vaccinated, and they didn't.
Listen, I sometimes have disagreements with like a sliver of my audience. There are people who disagree with me on my take on Russia, Ukraine. There are people who disagree with me on my take on hate crime enhancement or Cuba or Venezuela or crypto or, you know, whatever. But if the majority of my audience seemed to be at odds with the fact that I think the vaccines protect you from dying from COVID, which is what the science shows, I accept, not I think or believe, I would be reconsidering what the hell I'm doing. Now, my situation is different because I am my own platform in the sense that Cavuto has taken his views and he works at Fox and he has the Fox audience. Okay. If he went somewhere else, he would have a different audience, presumably. I don't know how many people are super loyal to Cavuto, but he seems sort of uninspiring in that way. It's not the same for someone like me, in the sense that we're on platforms where you can just watch somebody else. And so I don't think I would end up in a situation where such a significant portion of my audience disagrees with me about something so fundamental. But these are people where nothing will change their mind at this point in time. And we know the numbers, we know the data, we know everything. Although I don't agree with Neil Cavuto politically, I'm glad he didn't die. I'm glad he was vaccinated. And I see no reason to question what the doctors told him, which is at the level of severity that you got sick this time in the ICU, if you were not fully vaccinated, it's likely that you would have died. That seems reasonable to me. And whether this will change anybody's mind in Cavuto's audience, I have absolutely no idea.